Even though he did his thing out of high school, not many could have anticipated what would be next for the stud out there in Las Vegas.
Second down and 9 as Carr fires, end zone, touchdown!
Out of Fresno, California, Derek bounced around a bit, as he initially lived in Bakersfield, but then moved to Sugar Land, Texas after his brother was drafted first overall by the Houston Texans. And then if you fast forward a bit, going into Derek's senior year of high school, they decided to move back to Bakersfield following some stellar play by my man in Sugar Land. While at Clemens High in good old Texas, an injury to the starter allowed Derek to do his thing at Q as a sophomore with over 1,200 yards and 12 touchdowns, and then he was able to follow it up with over 1,616 as a junior. Although the stats seem a bit underwhelming, Carr was able to lead the team to an undefeated season as a junior, until they eventually lost in the quarterfinal to the eventual state champs. So with that in mind, it wasn't all that surprising that Derek was heavily recruited by schools like Fresno State, SMU, and Utah. And so after committing to Fresno at the end of his junior year, the move wasn't all that surprising. But what was more surprising about it all was the hype surrounding his choice to go to Bakersfield Christian, instead of rumors that he would go to historically good football schools like Stockdale or Bakersfield High. But nonetheless, going into his senior year, Derek was looking to prove himself. It did just that as he led BC to a 12-1 record, with the one loss coming to the powerhouse in Oaks Christian. Throughout the season, it seemed like my man was on timing every single game, and so with his over 4,000 yards and 46 touchdowns, it wasn't all that surprising that he was arguably the best private high school player of the year. Although it's usually after all of this that players choose where they're going to go, Derek had already made up his mind the previous year, and now was just looking to do his thing at good old Fresno State. It was not much of a surprise that Derek followed in the path of his older brother David with the Bulldogs, with him deciding to don the number 4 because of his favorite NFL player in Brett Favre. But no matter the case, it didn't mean that he would immediately get to do his thing on the football field, and although he competed for the starting job, he eventually lost to junior Ryan Corbyn. So with that in mind, his freshman year was pretty much a wash, as he completed only 10 passes for 112 yards in the limited time that he did end up playing. Following a redshirt the following year, Derek earned the starting spot going into his quote-unquote sophomore season, and proved why on the football field. In his first actual year as a starter, my man passed for over 3,500 yards and 26 touchdowns, and so with that in mind, what happened next wasn't all that surprising. Going into Derek's junior season, a certain wideout in Davante Adams was ready to do his thing following a redshirt the previous year, and I would say he did. His over 1,300 yards and 14 touchdowns in only his first actual season were ridiculous enough, and gave Derek arguably one of the best wide receiver ones in all of college football. And so even though he did pretty well as a sophomore, with help of Davante, Derek took his game to the next level. Over 4,100 yards and 37 touchdowns, I would say is a pretty big improvement from what was already an impressive sophomore campaign, but simply a byproduct of the unique chemistry that Derek and Davante established early on. The two just were able to click, and so going into what was looking like both of their last years in Fresno, I'm sure they wanted to end on a high note, and from beginning to end, they did just that. Davante's ridiculous over 1,700 yards and 24 touchdowns were able to fuel Derek's best performance as a football player with over 5,000 yards and 50 touchdowns, as he was somehow able to finish 8th in the Heisman voting, which is insane for someone who played in the Mountain West. Nonetheless, following such an impressive career with Fresno State, Derek went into the draft as one of the top-rated quarterbacks in his class. Guys like Bridgewater, Manziel, and Bortles were some of the only guys ahead of him, and so it made sense that he went early second round to Oakland.
Oakland Raiders select Derek Carr, quarterback, Fresno State.
Unlike when he was at Fresno, after putting on a show in the preseason, Derek was able to start going into his rookie season. Not only was he just going to start the first game, but as head coach Dennis Allen would say, he was going to be the starting quarterback moving forward, not just week to week. So with that in mind, quite a bit of expectations were put on my man, and throughout his first 4 games, he was able to play pretty well, but not well enough to lead the team to a single win as they started 0-4. Following a high ankle and MCL sprain in the 4th game, Derek was forced to miss the following week, but when he came back, it was much of the same for the rest of the season as Oakland went 3-13. Although a rough way to start your time in the league, Derek's near 3,300 yards and 21 touchdowns, along with only 12 picks, were not really all that bad for a guy in his first year. But anyways, going into his second season with the team, a new addition and former Alabama standout Amari Cooper provided Derek with his first legitimate wide receiver 1 since Davante. But even then, there were not all that crazy of expectations on Derek's sophomore season in Oakland. But his near 4,000 yards and 32 touchdowns, along with only 13 picks, were able to prove that Derek's play at Fresno was not a fluke. Somehow, in his only season with the Raiders, Derek was able to make a Pro Bowl, and upon that, quickly established himself as one of the best young quarterbacks in the AFC. And I would say his play over the next 2 years did that and more, as he was able to make 3 straight Pro Bowls in his first 4 seasons in Oakland. Following such a dope start to his career, with the new head coach and John Gruden taking the helm, Derek was looking to take his game to another level once again, but it started off a bit rocky. After 3 straight solid statistical seasons, Derek had a bit of an up and down year as he led the Raiders to a very disappointing 4-12 record. Following such a rough season, I'm sure Derek was looking to bounce back the following year, and his over 4,000 yards and 21 touchdowns were able to help the team win 3 more games than the previous season. Still not great or a playoff team, but at least better than before. And so with the team moving to Vegas, it seemed like the future was bright for Derek. An 8-8 initial season was not too bad a way to start off, and upon that, Derek was able to improve quite a bit with over 4,100 yards and 27 touchdowns. Still not a playoff team, but getting closer and closer each and every season, and so going into 2021, it seemed like there was quite a bit of potential for Derek and the gang. Even though it was a wild season from beginning to end on and off the field, Derek was still able to lead the Raiders to their first playoff appearance in a hot second, behind a career-best 4,800 yards and 23 touchdowns, although he had a rough 14 picks. Nonetheless, the team went up against Cincinnati in the wild card, and although they lost by a touchdown, it was against the eventual AFC Championship Bengals, and upon that was a close back and forth all the way through, so I wouldn't really peg him down too much for it. Anyways, after such a rough way to end the year, let's just say this offseason has been one for the ages, and the Raiders took full advantage of it. Whether it was the hiring of new head coach Josh McDaniels, signing of Chandler Jones, or crazy enough Davante Adams, they're building a contender. But what really makes them dangerous is that after 9 years of being apart, Derek and Davante are finally reunited, and as you could guess, looking to take the football world by storm. In an offense that already has studs like Waller and Renfro, Davante could easily make them one of, if not the most dangerous units in the league. Add that with the chemistry between him and Derek, and these next few years could be crazy for Vegas. Following the whole Davante Adams signing, it was not that much of a surprise that Derek decided to do the same with a 3-year, $120 million contract extension, giving him a big reason to stay in the silver and black. And so now with him and Davante reuniting on a team that already made the playoffs the previous season, I think they could legitimately contend for a Super Bowl in what could be the most ridiculous division in the league. I mean, considering the fact that Derek is a dark horse candidate for MVP, if he can play half as well as he would need to win an MVP, then I'm sure Vegas will be fine. Needless to say, I'm pretty sure the Raiders have one of the most stacked rosters in the league, so it only makes sense that they could potentially bring home the franchise's first Super Bowl in like 2 decades. There's really no reason why they shouldn't be able to, considering Derek and Davante's ability on the field, and upon that, the fact that they seem to be fostering a new culture for what could be the team to beat. What do you guys think? Are Derek and Davante going to help Vegas bring back a Super Bowl to the silver and black, or is the team still missing some pieces? Let me know in the comments down below. Derek Carr has had a roller coaster of a football career from high school to now, and I think he could be a part of something special over the next few years in Vegas.
Gonna throw. Drake picked up the pressure. All alone is Zay Jones.
Thanks for watching the video. If you guys enjoyed, make sure to subscribe, like, and comment down below stuff you want next. But anyway, see you all soon, and peace out.